Hey guys, and welcome to this session of Workflow Wednesdays. Today, we're going to be talking about how you can use lists in journeys, making it much easier to build surveys and questions with predefined options that users can select from. Let's take a look at it. So in this example, we have a very simple employee satisfaction survey. Here, simple step, send a form with the survey itself, and once it's been filled out, send a message to Slack. Now, sending out the survey is simply going to be sending out a simple form like the one you can see here. It's asking people how satisfied they are in their current role, how do you rate and support guidance from your manager, etc., etc. Now, as you can see here, whenever the question has been set up here, there's a list of options. Now, when you create a form, you can either type these options out one by one, or you can actually use what we call lists. And that's what we're going to be talking about here today. So in the form builder, when you select a question like this, you can have the option predefined list option. You can also remove that and just add the options one by one, or you can simply select a predefined list. And if you've already imported a list or created it from scratch, you can reuse that list among multiple forms that you have. So in this case, we've added a number of lists, and we've called all of these lists a certain name, starting with the name scale. So if we want to have a question answered on a scale of 1 to 10, we might use that list here. And then the options are going to be from 1 to 10. If we want to use a different type of scaled list, we might want to use something like satisfied, list from very poor to excellent, etc. Lists is something you can find on the left sidebar, simply called lists. And what you can do with it, if you click a list, is that you can see here the name of the list itself and the options that it has. Now, as you can notice here, this has the options from very dissatisfied to very satisfied in this order. Now, you might want to have the order put a different way, so to make sure that whenever people get a question, the first option is going to be very satisfied, and the last option is going to be very dissatisfied. Now, you can notice that it actually has two values here. One of the values is 5, and one of the values is very satisfied. Now, if you remove these options, you can see that it has these naming conventions here, add label and add value. What that means is that the label is the options that you actually see, such as satisfied, neutral, dissatisfied, but the value is another value that gets added, which could be a number, could be text, something that might be easier to use when for a system that you add information into, or maybe if you have multiple lists, they all have different labels, but they all have the same value. It's easier for you to work with data analytics and stuff like that. So having both a label and a value can actually have tremendous added value when using the data in other places. Let's just take an example here of various data sets that we've kind of added on here. For example, all the countries in the world. You might also want to use different lists, such as a list of all languages. That might be pretty detailed. So instead of using a large language list like this, there's also smaller lists of languages, such as a more simplified list like this one, where you're basically asking people to pick between 23 pretty common languages, or just select other if none of those apply. And questions that contain stuff like languages can be used in various ways. For example, if someone does or doesn't speak a language, you might want to add a condition later on that does something differently depending on which languages people speak. You might also want to have maybe certain sections or forms open up depending on what the user who is filling out the form, depending on which languages they speak. So there's all sorts of use cases here. Now, what we're going to do is that we're going to add lists to the journey systems step by step. So we have a spreadsheet here that's online in the comments below. You can simply go there and pick whatever list you have in mind. Let's just pick a large list here. It has, for label, it has a list of country names. And for value, it has a shortening of that country name. And this is actually a standard list, ISO 3166. So what you do here is just click File, you click Download, and you click CSV. And then you have the CSV file ready, and it's going to have just these values here. Now, the next step, what you do is you just go into Journeys, and you click Import List. You click Open the CSV tool. You then give it a name and click Continue. you can upload the file. Just pick the file from here. As you can see, this is the list that we just downloaded. Click the open button and click continue. Then select what you want to be as the label and the value. Now in the list that we just downloaded, it actually, like the top column actually has the name label and name value. So it's pretty easy to pick which is which. But usually when you have lists like these, the typical name here would probably be something like country name and country code. But here we're just picking what is the label and what is the value. Click continue, and the import list has been added. Now when you go to the form builder, if you simply, let's just add another question here, and let's just have it a drop-down menu where we ask a simple question, pick your country of origin. And now I could start typing out here every single country that we want to have as an option, or I can simply go and type in here, scale, list of countries, and they're all going to be there when you go for save. Just go preview, click in whatever view we want, and from here, the user can pick any option of the countries that we just added to the list. Now remember, if I pick a country here, the US for example, what's happening is that I'm picking the label of the United States of America, but maybe you want the results of this survey to go into an external system, and you don't want to use the name United States of America, you want to use the code. And then you would actually select the value instead of the label as the information snippet that goes into that system. Now, a final good practice here is that whenever you have lists like these, try to maybe use a scale in the same size to make it simpler to work with data. For example, here, there might be a question that we call the satisfaction level, and you can word this question in a certain way, but try to think of this as, if someone answers a question with very satisfied, that should get the grade 5. In this demo, for example, using the numbers 1 to 5. Now, another question, which is worded a little bit differently, could be from being very poor to excellent. Now, again, in this case, make sure that the value for excellent is also 5. So the reason why this can be interesting is because it doesn't matter if you're using the satisfaction level scale, the very poor to excellent scale, the strongly agree or disagree scale, or others. If you need to perhaps compare notes on how people have answered questions in different forms, in different variations, it's very easy for the people in analytics to just see the numerical value that each of these has to make it easier to work with the data at a later stage. So they will be very thankful if this is a routine of how you actually work with the data and the questions that you're putting in. The other thing to think about is there's so many different types of questions that often get asked around the workplace. So we would definitely try, instead of using larger lists with hundreds of languages that might not be relevant for you, to try and simplify it in perhaps the most common options and just give it a simple extra option of other, and then you can have conditions in the form so that if someone picks other, they can put in the values that matter, and it just makes the whole UX, UI, and experience for people answering forms way better. So please give it a try. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Let us know what lists you think are missing, and share with us whatever you're using this for, if this adds value to your process. So thank you for listening, and looking forward to hearing your thoughts.